come on live every Monday at 11, but there is a bit of craziness going on here. My office is being renovated, and I was running around trying to find the best Wi-Fi spot. Usually I could plug in, but I was in this spot downstairs that the light was coming in and it didn't work, so I had to reset up somewhere. Anyway, so here I am today. We're talking about when you feel powerless. And you know what? I decided, even though I knew I was late and I was trying to find a place to go online that would work, I didn't get lost in the powerlessness of it. Because like, what's the worst that could happen? I'm a little bit late. What's the worst that could happen? And hi. And so good morning. And so I just am like, well, it'll go when it goes, right? It'll go when it goes. So I'm practicing exactly what I'm preaching here to how to go in the flow when you feel powerless. And so let me talk about some mistakes that people make. And listen, this is a live coaching, but I know it takes a while for people to kind of get on and get warmed up and then be able to type in something that they have a question. This is the only place, Monday mornings at 11 Eastern, this is the only place that I do live coaching for people who are not my personal clients. You can, I do have some space open if you want to, I have a room for a couple more clients. If you want to become a client, I do have that available. But this is the only place. Like, I don't answer personal questions over text or email or anything like that because I really need to know you. So go ahead. So Gru, you're down now. You have to tell me a little bit more if you want me to answer some question. Okay, Gru is saying, I'm dealing with depression, anxiety, bipolar, and I'm feeling very down. It seems like, especially going into the fall, like, you know, it's getting darker earlier. It's getting cold. I don't know where you are. You might be in the Southern Hemisphere, actually. But it's a time where that sadness is heavier. If you're already anxious, you're already depressed regularly in your life, you know, this time of the year is a hard time of the year. Plus, yes, we have the lockdown. You live in Nepal. Okay, thank you. Oh no, there's a different person. You know, with the lockdown, it's changed so much of every part of our lives and made us feel really powerless. And that's why I thought I'd talk about powerlessness today. So, Gru, I'm feeling you. You're in Jacksonville, Florida. Okay, well, think about you there. I love knowing where people are, so let me know, because I picture you there. When I'm working with people, I get into the matrix, or when someone's asking me a question, give me a little information, but I kind of get into the matrix of what you're saying, and then I'll be able to answer. So partly knowing, you know, where you live in the world helps me a lot. So yeah, I'd love to help you. Nishkal, you've had disorder, you've had anxiety for 3 years. 3 years ago you had it, or you do now? You were unstable because of lockdown, no job for 8 months, and the anxiety is okay. I mean, the realness of the losses that we're having because this coronavirus is so huge and people are feeling really powerless. And let me talk about, because this might help actually, Nishkal, I hope I'm saying your name okay. I apologize. But when you feel powerless, this is 2 mistakes people often make, because it feels like we're reeling. When we feel powerless, when stuff's happening that feels out of our control, or we feel trapped in our situation, and trapped is a hallmark of anxiety. Like, feeling trapped is a hallmark of what anxiety feels like. So it's what you feel when you feel trapped. If you feel powerless, what we do is we scramble and try to do one of these 2 things. We try to get control over ourselves or get control over other people. And some of those coping mechanisms are actually worse on ourselves. You know, so if like we get addicted to something, obviously there's more damage that's done to ourselves. If we lose ourselves, or like self-medicate or lose ourselves in something, overuse video games or whatever, if we control our eating, if we try to make rules for ourselves that we think we should follow, and then, you know, this is all like self-depreciating. This is all like self-punishment. We isolate ourselves. We create this rule that we shouldn't be around people because we don't deserve it. We harm ourselves, like self-harm, actually. There's so many things we do when we're trying to control ourselves to get our power back that actually makes us feel more out of control, and it makes it worse. And then we kind of spiral. We need to do that more, and then we feel more out of control, and then we need to do it more, and then we feel more out of control. You see how it goes? And so those kind of tactics of trying to control yourself really stirs up that self-hatred. And then you decide that you are the problem, right? So first feeling of out of control comes, then we try to control ourselves that way, and we can't succeed. And so we feel more out of control, and then we start thinking it's us that's the problem. So, and then the other thing we do, so sometimes we try to control others. Sometimes you see this, sometimes you're the one that's being controlled, and sometimes you're the one that's controlling. It doesn't mean you're a bad person, but this is what we do. If someone says something that makes us feel guilty, we try to make them listen to what we meant, or we just, so that there's some innocence in it, right? If we are afraid the other person is going to leave us, we try to push them away so they'll just leave already, because we can't anticipate. The anticipation of them leaving is driving us crazy, right? So we try to control the other person. Sometimes it's extreme, like bullying or abusing somebody. Probably nobody who follows me does that, so I'm not too worried about that. But like, we gaslight. When we feel guilty, we try to say, but what about you? We try to turn things around. We all do that. We're human. So this is what I want you to do instead. And then I'm going to read these comments. I'm so glad that you're asking me some questions and telling me a little bit about you and what's going on. I appreciate it. All right. So this is what you do instead. Have compassion for yourself. Have so much compassion for yourself, because you have to, if you love yourself and when you feel powerless, even in the beginning, as soon as you feel powerless, be like, I understand in this situation why I'd feel this way. If you don't right away start to judge yourself and spiral and start to control yourself because you're judging yourself, and then start hating yourself because you're failing at what you're trying to control yourself and feeling more out of control. If you, from the beginning, if you feel powerless and then have compassion for yourself, say, oh, I totally get it. It stops that spiral. Stops the spiral. It's like, oh, I understand why I feel that way. Okay, I'm just going to sit and kind of love myself through feeling this way a little bit. It makes sense. The worst thing that we do is when we feel bad, we attach to it by judging it and then trying to control it. And when we try to control it, it's like we are not accepting our own self, our own humanness. So I hope that lands. I hope that comes through. If you have questions about that, go ahead and type it while I'm working on these, folks. Okay, so Gru lives in Jacksonville, Florida. You can't read the whole thing. Gru lives in Jacksonville, Florida, a single father taking care of 2 twin girls. How old are they? I'll deal with anxiety and everything else I got to deal with, but today just so down. What if you just loved yourself where you are? Just be like, today's a down day, and I understand why. There's so much going on. I totally understand, and just love yourself a little bit for it. I hope that what I was saying before, Gru, helped, because it's like right away, if you have compassion you said you've been going through anxiety and depression for almost like 21 years. If you loved yourself a little bit more, instead of judging yourself and having it create all these like coping mechanisms that hurt you, things could get better. I mean, I'm not healing you. This is just like, we could work together and we could get rid of this, but this is just the first step. This is just a harmless first thing that I could say on social media, because it's safe. It's safe to have compassion for yourself. A lot of times when we're recovering from these, especially after so long, like you need some more really in-depth work. And so I can't give you advice, because sometimes people have to go right and sometimes people have to go left. Sometimes people have to open themselves up and sometimes people have to kind of protect themselves a little bit more. So I need to know your situation. But in general, compassion changes the entire game. When you feel powerless, when you feel trapped, when you don't feel good, when you feel upset, when you feel extra down, all of that is powerless, right? It's like you're feeling a feeling that you don't want to be feeling. It brings a sense of powerlessness in. And when you say, oh my God, I can't do this. I don't want to. Why is this happening? And you start to judge it, you spiral. Everything gets worse. Everything gets worse. Okay, so Montana says, you're not going to see the whole message here. But, oops, where'd it go? Okay, I'm sorry, you can see my eyes looking at this. Okay, I'll show Montana's, but you can't see the whole thing. I'll read it. I'm on my path to healing. I had a setback yesterday and a panic attack. I was able to help myself out of it, but notice I was triggered by some belly issues. I've had anxiety and panic disorder for a year and a half now. I feel like I'm always worried about something's wrong with me, kind of like health anxiety. How do I desensitize myself to the sensations with body discomfort? In Fresno, thank you for telling me where you are. I picture you there. I've been there. Montana. So desensitize yourself. Like it's a hormone. I wish you could take one of my programs because I have this whole like half-hour video on the biology of anxiety, which really takes the mystery out of anxiety. And so, yeah, even if you get my sleep anxiety, those are probably one of the cheapest things you could buy. jodiaman.com/sleep. And this video comes with all of my anxiety programs, but that's probably one of the cheapest ones. But you listen to it because it really tells you, it demystifies anxiety and goes over the biology of it so you could desensitize yourself. Because if you're scared of the feeling, it perpetuates the feeling. But if you understand it to what it is, I find that this helps people so much because you only have to do it for a couple minutes and the physical feeling stops, unless you're having like, a hormone imbalance in your body that's from something else. So I don't know about that. All right. So Raven, oh, I love this name. Raven Leo. My son's name's Leo. And I love Raven Leo. What a meaningful name that is. My brother used my standing up for myself yesterday against my character. You're spot on being a hermit mode. It's hurtful to mental health. Okay, yes, if you're in hermit, isolation is the worst thing for your mental health because you stay in the negativity in your head. Isolation is the worst. It's always the worst thing. In fact, over time, like I've been a counselor for 25 years. I've been a psychotherapist. And in that time, I realized most mental health problems are isolation issues. Because at one point they're feeling down. I'm not saying they weren't feeling down or anxious. It's real and that does happen. But the spiral of it over time and the meaning that people make about themselves when they're in isolation, the intensifying of feeling different and the self-hatred multiplies everything. So if you think about that over time, that's how I think about mental illnesses. Because mostly these feelings are temporary. But when you see yourself and have this story of yourself over a long period of time because of isolation, it impacts an entire life. Raven, of course your brother used standing up for yourself because this is gaslighting. So when you stand up to yourself by somebody and they feel powerless, they feel guilty or they feel accused, it brings up their own feeling of powerlessness and anxiety. And so they have to get power back. So when I say, like, when you feel powerless, don't do these two things, get control over yourself or get control over somebody else. This was what he did. He did the second one. So he felt out of control because you stood up for yourself and he was backpedaling. Like, you're not listening to me or you're not understanding. It's a misunderstanding. When you try to get someone to understand what you're saying, you're not listening to them anymore. You're trying to control the narrative. And so that's what he was doing. And it's not like a bad person or an abusive person gaslights. Everybody kind of does it a lot. We're in culture to do it. When we feel out of control, we kind of try to control the narrative and try to spin it back on somebody else because we don't like that feeling. And it takes someone with a lot of maturity, a lot of emotional maturity, not to do that actually. And so we have to see it for what it is. And that's why when I talk about in the toxic, I'm doing a toxic, I'm in a conference this week about breaking free from toxic relationships. And so I'm actually, the title of my talk is How to Stand Up When People Gaslight You. And I picked that topic because it's so hard, because when people gaslight us, we second guess ourselves. That's the point of them doing that, right? So you stood up for yourself and he wanted to push you back down. Whether it was unconscious or not, I don't know. It doesn't necessarily mean that he's vicious. It just meant he's out of control. Or he might be calculated and manipulative and vicious. I don't know your brother. So, but probably not. He just felt out of control and was like, but what about you? What you did? It's human. All right, so Maria, hi Maria. I just had a baby 11 weeks ago in the middle of moving to a new place. You're trying to relieve from a relationship. Oh, you feel out of control. Oh, I think you wrote to me this weekend, didn't you? Oh, honey love, I sent you lots and lots of prayers. I know you're feeling really overwhelmed. If there's, if you want to, I do have like a 2-hour bonus set, like a 2-hour on fire session. If somebody wanted to do that work, if someone didn't want to work with me over a long period of time, I do offer these 2-hour things. That's probably the least expensive way to work with me personally, but I wish I could serve you, sweetie. First of all, your body's recovering from the baby. And it's so emotional and overwhelming with all those hormones. And so to be trying to do this other stuff with the relationship and in the middle of a pandemic, honey, be so kind and loving to yourself. It is big, big, huge. I hope you have lots of wonderful girlfriends that are just around you and holding you up and loving you right now, because you deserve that so much. And just imagine me there too, okay? Imagine me there and let me know. So Raven says, honestly, I don't hate myself, but it's more like I feel powerless because I'm not the best at asserting myself when others attack me. You probably are good at it, Raven. You're probably good at asserting yourself when others attack you, but they just attack back. That doesn't mean you're bad at it. That means they're emotionally not mature and enough to respond in a way that keeps you centered. They decide to center themselves. Even the best people in the world don't have this education and the background to be able to be grounded and respond. So it's not that you're not good at asserting yourself. It's that they're not good at feeling that. They don't know what to do with it. So to a point that like I stopped asserting myself to people I know that just can't handle it really. I just stopped asserting myself to those people. I only assert myself. Like this weekend, I have a couple people in my life in crisis, like big, huge stuff. And so I'm holding space for like 4 different people that are really struggling. So keep those 4 people in your prayers right now. But I forgot what I was going to say about that. Oh, I forgot how I was going to relate it to you, Raven. Oh yeah. And I don't know how I apologize. I'll move on. I might come back up later. Okay. So Nichelle, what you said is exactly what happened. I know you. And I know you, and you're not even American. You told exactly what's happening to me. Thank you so much. I will try to do what you're saying. Yes, in Nepal, I can't pay for a psychiatrist. Thank you so much for this. I've been following you for, you have, and this is the first time we're meeting. I'm so happy. Maybe you could come on every Monday, and that will be some good medicine for you. I hope that happens. Oh, I'm so happy to meet you. This is going longer. I hope it's okay today. We're going longer because I'm live on YouTube as well. I'm getting more questions and it's exciting. Okay, Hope says, I feel like I need to take a break from work because of overwhelming anxiety, but my brain makes me feel like I'm just being lazy. I suffer from OCD and depression from India. India's having a really rough time, Hope. Oh my gosh, honey. I wish that I could just come over and help you out. Okay, I don't know your total situation, Hope, but And I understand when you're overwhelmed by anxiety, you might feel like you have to take a break. So you have to decide this, because having too much free time is not necessarily good for anxiety. If your work is something that's triggering anxiety, then yes, maybe you could take a break if you can, and if you can, and what that means for the rest of your life. But if you're taking a break and then staying home and like in bed with anxiety going through your head, no. But if like your work is such a toxic environment, and if you quit there, you could be doing something else that would be more peaceful, okay. But if work is okay, it's just that you're anxious, and then you stop working and stay in your room or in your house anxious all day, it sometimes makes people worse. So hope I'm sorry I'm giving you advice without really knowing everything about your situation, but I hope that makes some sense. Okay. Thanks, Montana. Okay, so Montana's saying, I'm afraid of the feelings of anxiety, especially feeling like I'm not here, but that makes sense. But here, yes. So when a lot of adrenaline's in your head, it gives you tunnel vision, and sometimes it creates a blankness. So this is definitely biological. So that symptom of anxiety, when you feel blank or disassociated with reality, it's because you were hyper aware. When you're hyper aware, things seem bizarre and reality seems bizarre. It is a symptom of a lot of adrenaline in the mind. And so that's what the adrenaline is doing, is trying to get you to focus. But when there's no problem, you're safe, it ends up being this blankness, which freaks people out. But it's not anything but a hormone. So if you keep that in mind, maybe that'll help, because if you think that you're disassociating from reality, you're here, not here, and then it freaks you out, and that perpetuates the anxiety and kicks up more adrenaline, then it makes it worse. If you know that this is like just a hormone and it could go away if you're not afraid of it, then maybe that'll help. Okay, spot on, Raven. Thank you. I do know, the affirmations today are just amazing. I know people, but just to hear that you're feeling heard, I feel like that's what I really want to give people. I want people to feel totally understood. Okay, this person's called Liquid Courage. I love it. Jodi, thank you so much for the work. You can't be overestimated. You are a strong person. I look up to you and hope to be as wise in managing my mental health. Thank you so much. I love your name, Liquid Courage, and I believe and see you as Liquid Courage. You could do anything. Like, we believe that you could do it. You could do it. It's really bad. We get lost in the powerlessness, and we forget to believe in ourselves and believe in our sovereign power and our personal agency to respond to life. It is real power. Like personal agency to respond to what's going on in our life, that's real power. We have it. We've always had it. I have tons and tons of videos and programs out here for you to help yourself. Please use my resources. I have a lot of things on Udemy, and they are cheap. So it's easy to go deeper with me. It's so easy. All right, so come on over to my website, jodiammon.com. I have tons of videos, tons of resources. You'll find everything there that you need, or working with me personally. I'd love to help you. But I can't wait to talk to you next Monday, and I will see you then. And until then, be present, love on yourself as much as you possibly can, and let that you want to be shine through.